The unlikely romance between a brilliant neurosurgeon who has everything under control and a battle-scarred mechanic who has given up on love. Two souls whose worlds collide in the most unexpected way, forcing them to confront the one thing they both fear most: vulnerability. Dr. Sarah Chen grips the steering wheel of her pristine BMW as rain pounds against the windshield. The 34-year-old neurosurgeon checks her watch. She's already running late for the medical conference in Boston. Her phone buzzes with another work call, but the storm intensifies, forcing her to pull over on a rural highway she's never seen before. The crash happens in seconds. A massive tree branch, weakened by the wind, crashes down directly in front of her car. Sarah slams the brakes, but her BMW skids off the wet asphalt and collides with the fallen timber. Steam rises from the crumpled hood as she sits in stunned silence, her perfectly ordered world suddenly shattered. With no cell signal and rain soaking through her designer suit, Sarah has no choice but to walk toward the only lights she can see, a small town called Cedar Falls. She stumbles into Morrison's Auto Repair, her heels clicking against the concrete floor as she surveys the cluttered garage filled with vintage motorcycles and the smell of motor oil. Jake Morrison emerges from beneath a classic Harley, his hands stained with grease, his military tattoos visible beneath his rolled-up sleeves. At 36, the former soldier has built a quiet life restoring bikes and avoiding complications. He takes one look at the soaked, shivering woman in the expensive suit and immediately knows she doesn't belong here. "My car broke down," Sarah announces, as if stating a medical diagnosis. "I need it fixed immediately. I have a conference to attend." Jake wipes his hands on a rag, studying her with skeptical eyes. "Lady, it's past 9 p.m. and there's a storm warning. Nothing's getting fixed tonight." The tension between them is immediate and electric. Sarah represents everything Jake left behind: the corporate world, the pressure, the constant need to prove worth through achievement. To her, he embodies everything she's worked to escape: uncertainty, simplicity, a life without clear metrics for success. When Martha Henderson, the 65-year-old owner of the local inn, arrives to offer Sarah a room, the neurosurgeon reluctantly accepts. She has no other choice. As she follows Martha through the quaint streets of Cedar Falls, Sarah feels like she's stepped into a different century, where people actually know each other's names and time moves at an incomprehensible pace. The next morning, Sarah discovers that her BMW needs parts that won't arrive for several days. Jake explains this with the patience of someone who's learned that some things simply cannot be rushed, while Sarah paces his garage like a caged animal, making frantic calls to colleagues and rescheduling appointments. "You act like the world will end if you're not there," Jake observes, not looking up from the engine he's working on. "Some of us have responsibilities," Sarah snaps back, but there's something in his calm demeanor that unsettles her more than any surgical emergency ever has. As the days pass, Sarah finds herself drawn into the rhythm of small-town life despite her resistance. She helps Dr. Tom Bradley at the local clinic, rediscovering the simple satisfaction of treating patients who thank her by name rather than through insurance forms. She watches Jake work on his motorcycles with the same precision she uses in surgery, but with a peace she's never experienced in an operating room. Jake, meanwhile, finds himself intrigued by Sarah's fierce intelligence and hidden vulnerability. When she mentions working 80-hour weeks, he recognizes the same escape mechanism he once used in the military, staying busy enough to avoid dealing with deeper pain. Their conversations become longer, more personal. Sarah admits that her last relationship ended because she chose a surgery over their anniversary dinner. Jake reveals that he left his corporate job after returning from deployment, unable to find meaning in quarterly reports when he'd seen what really mattered in life. The attraction between them grows undeniable. When Sarah's hand brushes Jake's while he's teaching her about motorcycle engines, the electricity is unmistakable. When he finds her crying after a difficult phone call with her demanding department head, his gentle comfort breaks through defenses she's spent years building. But their worlds seem impossibly incompatible. Sarah receives a call about a prestigious position at Johns Hopkins, the opportunity she's worked her entire career to achieve. The job would require even more hours, more dedication, more of the life she's always known. Jake watches her face light up as she discusses the opportunity, and he realizes he's falling in love with someone whose dreams exist in a world that nearly destroyed him. The conflict intensifies when Sarah's colleagues begin calling constantly, reminding her of the life waiting for her return. Sarah returns to Manhattan, determined to resume her old life, but everything feels different. Her sterile apartment seems cold and empty. The hospital corridors that once energized her now feel like a maze of fluorescent-lit isolation. During a complex surgery, her hands shake for the first time in her career, not from nerves, but from the realization that she's lost her passion for the work that once defined her. Meanwhile, Jake throws himself into his motorcycle restoration with renewed intensity, trying to forget the woman who showed him that his self-imposed isolation might be protection, but it's also a prison. When his sister Riley mentions that Sarah called the garage asking about him. Jake realizes he's been running from love just as much as Sarah has been running toward achievement. The crisis comes when Sarah collapses during an 18-hour surgery marathon. As she lies in the hospital bed where she spent countless hours treating others, she finally understands what Jake meant about finding what really matters. Her success feels hollow when there's no one to share it with, no life beyond the hospital walls. Jake makes the first move, driving his motorcycle through the night to reach Manhattan. He finds Sarah in her apartment, surrounded by medical journals and takeout containers, looking more exhausted than he's ever seen her. "I thought you had everything figured out," he says softly. "I thought I did too," she whispers, and for the first time, she allows herself to be completely vulnerable with another person. They talk through the night about fear, about the courage it takes to build a life rather than just a career, about love that requires risk. Sarah realizes she's been using work to avoid the possibility of rejection, while Jake admits he's been using solitude to avoid the possibility of loss. The resolution comes when both make sacrifices that honor their authentic selves. Sarah accepts a position at a regional hospital near Cedar Falls, where she can practice medicine with the personal connection she discovered during her unexpected stay. Jake decides to expand his business, opening himself to growth and partnership in ways he hasn't since the war. Their love story concludes not with grand gestures, but with the quiet courage of two people choosing vulnerability over safety, connection over control, and a shared future over the familiar patterns that once protected them. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where being forced to slow down actually helped you discover what you really wanted? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if this story of unexpected love resonated with you, subscribe for more tales of romance that prove sometimes the best things happen when we least expect them.